Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you read the title of this video and you're probably wondering, how do I buy a house? You're probably sitting there saying, man, I don't know anything about this, or I know something about this, but I want to know more. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about how a pro would buy a house versus a first-time home buyer. You know, there's a lot of videos out there on how to buy a house, but there's not a lot of in the weeds information on how to buy a house. Like, how would a professional go about buying a house versus somebody that has never really filled out any type of financial application or even gone through an inspection process or writing a contract for a house. Well, I'm going to walk you through that because I'm an investor that's invested my own money and has owned quite a few houses and is now a real estate agent. So I'm going to come at it on the investor side and on the real estate agent side, so you can kind of get how both sides kind of think. And I hope this really helps, because this could really save you some money, or it could help you get a good deal and kind of know what to look for, because a lot of people like to look at things from the financial point. I like to look at them from the house point. See, I'm going to come at this with the angles on like what will cost you money in a house when you're buying it. Like bad floors, roofs, electrical, aluminum wiring, which a lot of people have no idea about aluminum wiring, insurance, floods, real estate agents, things that most people can't look at a house and tell, man, that's going to cost you some money one day. So here we go. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to give you my thought process, because I don't pull any punches. If you've been watching this channel very long, I tend to just kind of give you the way I think. So I'm going to give you a digital download of Jack Motley's mind on buying houses in this video. And I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm just going to talk because Samantha is at a work function, and we're going to talk how to buy a house and get the best deal you can. So here we go. All right, so my name's Jack Motley. If you haven't met me before, I have this channel called Jack Motley. It's my world of craziness, real estate, investing, financial stuff, fishing, hunting, travel, and whatever me and Samantha decide to get into on the weekend. So that being said, we're talking about how to buy a house because I have owned 5 rental houses. They were all pretty much paid for. All 4 of them were paid for except for one. And we made a good chunk of change on it. But I've owned about $500,000 worth of real estate, paid for, my name, and, well, actually it wasn't my name, but LLCs. We'll talk about that another time, another video. So how are you going to buy the house? You either got to be pre-approved. That means you're either going to get a conventional VA or FHA or some other type of financing, hard money, however you want to do that. Or you're going to be doing it with a sack full of cash. I've done it all the ways. So once you figure out how you're going to pay for the house, you've gotten pre-approved, you need to find an agent. And I'm going to talk about agents throughout this video and kind of like what I think about it. Now, being an agent versus being an investor, working with an agent, and versus buying my own house and working with an agent, right? So I've done all 3. So please do not pick your real estate agent by a headshot or by family or friends, okay? Pick the best real estate agent you can find. And if you're on the buying side, the seller is paying for the agent's commission on your side. So don't worry about having to pay the agent if there's a commission basis on the property you're trying to pick up. So use a real estate agent, get the best one you possibly can. Preferably get one that's got corn in his crib and has done some deals or owns real estate and understands this process. Just call them and have a conversation with them. You'll figure it out real fast. I get calls from all over the United States now for my YouTube channel, especially because they've seen me with my properties on this channel, and I've documented my process with these properties on my channel. So I have a resume behind me on buying and selling properties with my own money and putting my own money where my mouth is. So, and I've dealt with a lot of bad real estate agents on the other side of the table that don't understand much about how a house works. A lot of them don't know anything about floor joists and wiring and roofing, and they'll just rely on an inspection process. Granted, most realtors will say they're not allowed to give information on the inspection process, or if things are, because that would make you an inspector. But what you can do is advise your client to what things that need to be highlighted, maybe possibly in an inspection, right? Things that are going to be up on the 4-point, you can pretty much walk in a house and kind of tell what's going to be on that 4-point. At least you should be able to do that as a realtor. And just kind of generically put your client in the right direction. Now, moving right along. So let's talk about what kind of property you're trying to find. You need to figure out what your family's going to need, either a 3-2, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 2-1, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, or 4-2, 5-3, 5-4, however you want to do it. If you need an office now, figure that out. So when you go to talk to your real estate agent, you know exactly what to tell them you're looking for and about what area you're looking for. Know where the crime statistics are, know where the schools are, because these are important. You also need to know whether you're going to be renting this house in the future or you're buying this as your forever home, because those are two big things. So let's try not to confuse having a rental with buying a higher price house. Okay, so as price goes up, your cash flow is going to go down, right? So let's say you buy a $100,000 house and it'll rent for $1,000 a month. 1% rent rule. Okay, a lot of people say, oh, it's the 1% rent rule. Well, I'm going to tell you straight up, with the 1% rent rule, if you're carrying debt, it's going to be really hard to cash flow that property. I don't care who you are. I owned all my properties outright, and with maintenance and bad tenants and things like that, depending on what level of tenant you get, your maintenance is going to be different. But I will say this, as you get to $200,000, $220,000, $250,000, that rent is still going to be in that $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 price range, and you're below that 1% rule, and your cash flow is going to go way down. So then you're going into a holding thought, like you're holding the property, hoping it will appreciate. Well, will appreciation outrun maintenance? That is the question. That's my thought on that. So know whether you're going to rent it in the future. No, if you're going to rent it in the future, try to get that 3-2, because your rent rates go up dramatically with a 3-1 to a 3-2. At a 2-1, your tenants won't stay there as long because their family needs are going to grow as they get a family too. So you'll have a higher vacancy rate on a 2-1 versus a 3-2 or a 3-1. You'll have less vacancy rate with a 3-2 versus a 3-1 because most people want 2 bathrooms. We live in a modern world. So moving right along, we've gotten across what are we looking for. Now let's go to actually looking at the house. I also just wanted to put in with the 1% rule. Like when I'm buying an investment property, I want a 1.5% because I just need more skin in the game to have a cash flow property to cover expenses and have the best cash flow I possibly can, if that makes sense. I'll do another video on that. You've looked at the houses and you kind of think you know what you're looking at. You've talked to your realtor and you've got a batch of houses and you're wanting to go look at. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, try not to get anything with a flat roof because insurance is always problematic with those and they leak. Try not to get anything with a bad seller's disclosure. Quiz your realtor on the seller's disclosure. It's usually on the MLS before most realtors list anything. They usually try to put a disclosure on there. It'll tell you if there's any problems that the seller knows about, you know, if it was fixed or mitigated or if it has aluminum wiring and stuff like that. If they lie on that disclosure, sometimes you can have legal recourse if it costs you money. So it's good to have a seller's disclosure. Always question things that look fishy because people like to play like they don't know these things. Also, all my disclaimers in this video are in the description box below. I'm just doing this out of my thought process, my experience, and what I would do. I can't give y'all complete advice. I'm just downloading my mind. So description box disclaimers, moving right along. All right, so you got to the house and you're saying, well, Jack, what do I do? So here's what I do the moment I get to a house, okay? I did this last night on an old house before my clients even got there. I immediately get out of the truck, I walk to the door, and I walk the eave, okay? I walk all the way around the house looking at the eaves of the house, okay? Because there's always wood rot on the eaves of the house. And people love to paint over it. Same way with the windows. Look around the corners of the windows and see if there's wood rot. And you can usually see it disguised in paint, but especially if it's freshly painted because you know they're disguised in something, those shady scoundrels. Okay, so then walk the eaves, look at the roof, and if you see shingles popping, curling, they don't have a lot of granules on it, start to question, hey, that roof is going to look bad. Also, see if you can see any like roof rafters kind of like rippling along the roof. If the roof is sagging, if it just doesn't look like a normal roof. Look at the valleys and make sure they look, you know, like they're done right, or somebody actually knew what they were doing. Walk around the house, look at the power meter or the box. Whether it's 100 amp or it's 200 amp, 400 amp, whatever, look at those and automatically know, hey, does that look like it is in good shape? Usually, if it doesn't look like it's in good shape, it's probably not. Go from there, look at the air conditioning unit and see how old it is. And if it's over about 10, 15 years, you're going to be looking at a new air conditioning unit. Word to the wise, I think they actually came out with air conditioning units if they are over, I think 2003 or 1, there's somewhere in there that you can't get Freon for them anymore. So if they go out and you can't power them up again, you're going to be looking at a new air conditioning unit. They did that junk on purpose. Once you go from there, go to the front door, because doorknobs and kitchens sell houses and the doorknob's right in front of you. Go through the door. The door sticks. If it goes, or it is, if you let it go, and the door just swings by itself, it doesn't just stay in place, you know, one, either the door frame is crooked, the house is a little crooked, the house is settling, etc., etc. You know, there's a little something wrong to it, because there's a funny thing about West Side houses in Pensacola. All the doors going to the bathroom stick. Why? Because the bathroom, the way the bathroom is designed, they're sitting on a pillar underneath the house. The house starts to settle over 50, 60, 70 years, and that door frame kind of starts to do this or this, and they stick. So you know if your house has got a little settling going on. Go across the floor and look for any soft spots. I have this funny thing I do. As soon as I get into a house, I jump and I land on the floor. And if the floor is soft, you'll know it. Don't go through the floor. That's not a good idea. Just do a little jump up and down. You can kind of tell if the floor is soggy. See if the floor is sloping. See if the floor is a little weird. See if any flooring they put down is popping, curling. Do anything funny, right? You can notice this because I've walked through hundreds of houses. I noticed this stuff right off the bat. Walk across. If there's anywhere water has been, or will be, go straight to it. Go to the sink. Look under the sink. Check the floor around the sink. Just all you gotta do is just kind of walk over. If it's squishy, you know there's a water leak or there's water rot underneath the house. Okay, it could be underneath the floor, underneath the cabinets where the sink is. It could be behind the wall. Go to the bathroom, do the exact same thing. Look around the toilet. If you see a tile cracking around the toilet, if you see a tile cracking around the shower, if you see a tile cracking in front of the sink and the kitchen, buy a hot water heater. Odds are the floor underneath it is soggy, squishy, or has done something to make that tile crack. Tile cracks when there's give, and if there's give and it cracks, you know you're going to be replacing the floor. Last house I bought, I walked in, there was one tile cracked, and I should have known it because it was in front of the sink. But I was so bent on buying this house, and I was willing to do the work, that when I pulled it back, the whole subfloor was rotted out. And it wound up being like a 5x5 spot that I had to fix. And like, you know, you just can't get around that. Moving right along. So I spent some time talking about subfloors and looking at the house to see if it looks a little odd. The things that are going to cost you the most in a house are going to be the roof, and then the electrical, okay, and then the plumbing, and then the HVAC, and then the sewer system, okay? So when you're looking at the house and you know you got a bad roof, that's something you're not going to DIY. So that needs to be taken into account right off the bat, because your insurance company is not going to probably let you close if it's got a bad roof. Or they're going to make you replace it within 30 days after you close. So it's coming. Most insurance companies now have said that if it's over 15 years old, looking at a roof replacement, even though a roof should last 20 years on your math, okay? So when you got a rental property, you know how long you got left on a roof, just because what the insurance is going to say. If you're buying an old house, if it's in the 70s, it might have aluminum wiring. If it's in that time frame and you have aluminum wiring, don't panic. Kind of panic. If it doesn't have AlumiCon connectors around the outlets, the insurance company is going to crawl your butt and make you rewire the house, or they're going to charge you an insane amount of money for insurance. If it has AlumiCon connectors, that's been mitigated, and a lot of time the insurance companies will allow you to get by on that. So just FYI, if your realtor panics on aluminum wiring, ask them why. And then if they don't understand how aluminum wiring works, you need to start researching it yourself. Sometimes you can get a better deal with aluminum wiring because the seller is scared of it too. He's been paying a high insurance cost, doesn't want to hold on to it. His holding costs are higher because the insurance is higher. But that being said, usually you can get a house rewired for like 6 to 8 grand, depending on square footage, how many outlets and things like that. Don't panic, just add it into your credits and negotiation. I'll talk about that later. Same way with the cloth wiring, you're probably looking at rewiring the house. My house had it, but it wasn't in bad shape. Usually like 40s, 50s, you get like this asbestos paper type wiring and it'll crumble as a fire hazard, but it's been there a long time. If you don't mess with it, usually it'll survive. A lot of the houses here on the west side of Pensacola have it, so just FYI on that. Plumbing. Plumbing is, you don't want bad plumbing in a house, okay? A lot of the old houses have galvanized plumbing. Some of them still have the old iron sewer pipes. Those are bad. You got to get rid of it. And if you buy a house with that old stuff in it, you're going to have bad water pressure, leaky pipes. Try to stay away from it, or you're going to be replumbing the house. You know, you don't want an old leaky spot in a wall. That's what rots out a lot of floors. Look at your hot water heater. Make sure that's in good shape because the insurance company is going to ban that one too. I think if it's over 10 years, sometimes they start coming back on you, especially if it's gas. Once you look at those things, look at the sewer pipe. Determine whether you got sewer or septic. And don't let your home inspector on these 4 points get away with not crawling into the attic because it's obstructed or not getting on a roof because he didn't have his ladder. Fire him if he does that. Make sure that they give you these inspections. Inspections are super important. That's why the mortgage company makes you do it. Make sure you do it during the inspection process. That's that 4-point inspection process. That's what I'm talking about, looking at the 4 points of your house. And that's what they are. They're your roof, your electrical, your plumbing, your sewage, and your AC. You know, those are your life-sustaining things in your house. Make sure they're right. So look at those immediately when you go into the house and decide whether you want to go forward. So like, let's say you go forward. You're like, I like this house. Let's do this. Let's do this. So if it's the cosmetics of the house are really not that big of a deal. They can usually be remedied for a lot lower cost than you think. And sometimes you can squeeze out a deal by the house just being a little dirty or the floor being scruffy or whatever. Just go to Home Depot. Figure out the price of what that would be, you know, vinyl plank flooring or paint and things like that, and factor that into your offer when you go to offer. When you go in, see if the house smells. If it smells like rats, you got a rat problem. Smells like roaches, you got a roach problem. Go ahead and think about that. So when you're going to make your offer and you go into your inspection process, we're going to talk about that here, but we kind of talked about it. You write your offer, make sure your realtor says contingent for appraisal and right to inspect, okay? Right to inspect and counsel. So it's right to a contingency of appraisal. Make sure it appraises if you're buying with a loan, which is tough right now because most houses are selling above appraisals and you're having to come to the table with more cash. But make sure those blocks are checked on your contract. Here in Florida, it's very boom right there in front of you. Make sure those things are there, so when you get into the process and you find a problem, you either have the ability to back out or ask for some type of credit at the closing or remedying the issue. You don't want to get stuck in that problem, especially with as-is contracts or as-is houses or where they didn't disclose something. You want to be able to back out if you need to. So make sure your realtor does that, and this is where they earn their keep, is with the contract process and the negotiation. So boom, you came under contract. What's going to happen next is you want to make sure you get a WDO because those termites can trick you, okay? And same way with a home inspector. If a WDO inspector does not crawl underneath your house in certain places and he gives you some type of hey, I couldn't check that one spot where the seals are under the porch. I couldn't get to it. Fire him, okay? Like, don't pay him. Like, this is just me, okay? Because I've had this happen to me and it cost me money, okay? Same way with a 4-point. When your home inspector goes and does your 4-point, ask him for scope notes. It'll cost you more, but he'll do a full breakdown of the house of everything that's wrong with it. It's going to cost you more. But what you're going to give the insurance company and the mortgage company is a 4-point, which is, like I said before, your roof and your electricity and your plumbing and your AC and your hot water heater and stuff. Once you got all that back, look at it. Flag the things that are completely bad and you have to get fixed, and go back at the other side on, hey, I want these things fixed or a credit. Some of the things will be small. Some can be big. Make sure that anything you have a question about and you look at it, make sure you get an inspection. If you go outside and it has a septic tank, and it's one of those raised septic tanks, you see a mound in the backyard. If you see a wet spot somewhere in that yard, you got a problem, make sure you get a septic inspection. Most times the bank's going to make you get a septic tank inspection. Know that it's amazing, but some people will close houses and not know if they have sewer or septic. And if your home inspector can't tell, question him hard, okay? Because he's a home inspector. But that being said, if you have a question, get it inspected. If the house looks like it's settling, or if you've got brick that's a little off, get it inspected. Make sure it hasn't flooded, and make sure like permitting is kind of up to date. A lot of the problems here on the west side of Pensacola, a lot of stuff hasn't been permitted, and you want to make sure it's safe. If it hasn't been permitted, have the inspector look at it and make sure it's done properly. Also, if you have gas, okay, in the house, make sure the gas is turned on and inspected, because gas leaks happen and they're dangerous, okay? Seriously dangerous, okay? So once you get past the home inspector, the WDO guy, which is the termites and bugs and stuff, you got to get to the insurance spot. And this is what gets tricky, because, you know, I'm not an insurance agent, but I've dealt with a lot of insurance agents, okay, buying insurance. And the things that are going to like really trip you up on a house is the roof, the electrical, if the floodplain, water damage, and aluminum wiring. And aluminum wiring is what I was trying to explain to you before. It'll elevate your insurance astronomically. The insurance companies deemed that they just don't want to deal with it. Houses burned down in the past. The 1970s era, 70 to 80, it was kind of prominent, still around. It's just one of those things that can kill a deal. The electricians can go around and put alumina connectors on there and on each outlet and mitigate it, but it costs, you know, a couple $1,000. And, you know, this actually happened to one of my buddies. The realtor didn't do her diligence with the purchase before when he bought it. After close, the insurance company made him change it, costing thousands of dollars. And that was a reason why having a good realtor that knows this stuff is important. You know, they can kind of look at a house and be like, hey, this is going to be a red flag. This is what we got to do. Run it by an insurance agent before you close, just to make sure. You got to have insurance before you close. You get to the closing table. Even if you pay cash, you got to have insurance. That's a big chunk of change is burned down. And last, make sure you get title insurance. Title insurance, I had a buddy get sued over his title not too long ago, and he fought it for a year. And luckily he had title insurance and he won the case. But you never know if the house was lost in a poker game 10 years ago, or if there's a lien some weird place, or somewhere on a deed somewhere in a drawer. You just never know. That can be a weird thing. So FYI, get title insurance. Make sure you got a survey. If the bank's going to make you get a survey, but making sure you get a survey if you're doing cash, because sometimes you're not buying what you think you're buying. Just leave it at that. You're at the closing table. You paid your earnest money. You came to the table with everything you got to have, contracts ready to go, and you close the deal. Okay, you're moving into the house now. This is where I was talking about, is it going to be a rental or a forever home? If it's going to be a rental, do the lowest amount that you possibly can for you to enjoy living there, to where if you move out, you haven't like really incurred too many expenses to where you're fixing the rent, because your price, the amount of money the property costs you and the amount it rents for is so important for you to get a return. So don't go crazy and get marble, countertops and the fancy kitchen cabinets and things like that, because you're going to turn a profitable investment into a crazy money pit before you know it. If you're going to live in it forever, do whatever you got to do. You got a high net worth, do whatever you got to do. Make that fancy driveway. But if it's going to be a rental, the numbers, you cannot get away from the numbers. The numbers have to work. Do not blow out a kitchen and spend 40 grand. Do not blow out a bathroom and spend 20 grand. You do what you can to make it functional, safe, sound, cosmetically decent, and it will make you money. And that is, my big, thing about investing is if you hold it to the last 5 years on the tax code right now, this is just me, throwing some information out there, that you can usually take the property tax free and take that money into the next one, next deal, and you can kind of house hack every 2 to 5 years, and you can keep building, a cash hoard. Or you could refi. You could refi it out and move on to the next one. Or, whatever you want to do. Like, there's a lot of things you can do. You can owner finance it if you own it cash. These are things that you can do. But that's it, guys. I wanted to make this video. I know it's gone a long time, and you can't say I didn't throw this out here. I don't know if I'm going to make an investing course or not. Maybe I might. I might make a real estate investing course. Comment down below if you think I should. I also do consulting on this stuff if you want to email me and book an appointment. Or if you're moving to Florida and you need a realtor, I'm your guy. Just email down below. I'll see you guys later. Hope this helped kind of like move the process along, kind of help you with maybe you're having an issue or it hadn't quite, like you don't feel confident with the situation of buying a house. I hope this helps. I'll see you guys later.